What is up, everyone? Welcome to Battleground Podcast, a very special episode for the Shakers Den. Of course, the Salt Shakers are here, myself, Nickie Booshie, and when you see me, you see her. Of course, Driune Santana. How are you doing today, love?
Oh my god, I hate when you use that word. But I am great. I feel good. We have an amazing legendary guest in the Shakers and Battleground podcast. I mean, we got the original knockout in the building. Like you don't get too many of those, okay?
Yes, we do. Traci Brooks is in the building. Miss Traci, how are you doing?
Well, after that introduction, I'm flattered. I always say it makes me sound old when I like the original. Now it does. Before it was like, okay, she's the first. Now it's like I'm just old. But thank you so much. Thanks for having me, you guys. This is a pleasure.
Of course, no problem. I mean, it's great to have like I said, you're a legend, you're an icon, you are the original knockout. You have to hold on to that title forever. There's no one that does it like Miss Traci Brooks. But of course, let's go ahead and dive in. I mean, you returned to the ring at Impact 1000. I mean, with your husband Frankie, and you guys defeated Alicia Edwards and Eddie Edwards, which I know you came back at Slammiversary in your hometown, let's say. And I mean, you really got in there on Miss Alicia Edwards, like in so many different ways. But what emotions were you going through stepping back into the ring? I mean, you haven't been in the ring in more than like 11 years. So like talk about that, the emotions that you were going through within the entire match.
Fear. Fear was a big one. Going back, it had been 12 years since I'd been in an Impact Wrestling ring. It's one of those things. It's not like riding a bike. I don't care what anybody says. It's a little worried if I was going to get injured. I stepped away to be a mom, and I was happy with that. I wanted to do that. That was one of the reasons why I did it was for my son to be able to watch me, because it's different. He sees videos or past matches, but it's the first time we went down to a ring. Frankie and I were in the ring wrestling around, and my son's face, his like jaw dropped to the floor. He's like, "Mom, I didn't know you're like PTA mom. Like what?" And he had no clue I knew how to, do any of this stuff. So it was all worth it. But fear, I had a panic attack before I went through those curtains. I just kept saying to Frankie, I can't feel my legs. I can't feel my legs. Like, I just can't. And he's like, you're fine. And then the music hit, and it was one of those, like, he had to shove me through the curtain. But it was fear. But after, it was relief that I wasn't injured. And just joy, so much joy that my son got to see that. And I got to do it with my husband. Who gets this ending? Like, I got to end and against Eddie and Lish, which was just an amazing storyline to begin with. And as much as we don't like Eddie and Lish, they're just incredible professionals that are so good at their job. And it was just great for my son to be able to be front row and watch it. So fear, relief, joy.
I love that. So I actually happen to love Eddie.
I do. I'm going.
I do. I gotta ask, because there's been so many different table spots. Going back to Eddie when he put Trinity through the table. Now last week, your husband putting Lish through that table. Talk about those moments and how important it is to the growth of Impact Wrestling.
So actually, it's funny. So my husband was in Australia when that match aired, and I FaceTimed him crying after that match because that match was so beautiful. That match was so emotional, and that's what Impact does the best, and that's what the talent does the best. Storytelling, long-term storytelling, getting Lish involved, and now the wives are involved, and it was just, I got goosebumps saying it. I cried, but those spots are that's what makes Impact so great. It honestly does, and that's what sets us apart, are these long-term storytelling and the incredible talent. So yeah, all those little things, especially with Lish, and I think Lish found herself. Like, Lish is a bona fide star, and Eddie is, well, yeah, Eddie's great, whatever. But they are two talented people, and then my husband is just the best. He's just fantastic. So to see those two in that story, Killer Kowalski, Lish getting involved, the wives getting involved, and then the final match. So yeah, I called him. He was in Australia. He's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Your match was so good." I was just bawling because and I hadn't felt that in a long time. So it was just, but yeah, I think that's what makes Impact special is those matches, and then how they, involved Lish and the announcers, Tom and Matthew. Oh my goodness, just incredible to add to the story. So I could go on and on all day about Impact. So there's, honest to God, if you're not watching Impact, you're missing out. If you love good wrestling.
That is very true. I mean, a lot of people like to say a lot of things about Impact, but if you're not there in the building, because me and Nickie, we were there for Frankie and Eddie's match. So we were there live to see Lish go through that table. And it was just like, oh my God. And I was like, I wonder how Traci's going to feel. But I saw you tweeted about it on Twitter and everything. And it was like, Lish got.
Well, I think Tom said too, that was for Traci Brooks. I was like, yeah, it was. Right, it was. I loved it. Oh my God, I'm going to cry now. It was awesome. It was awesome. I loved it.
Yeah. Of course, we're on the heels of Bound for Glory. I mean, like, literally, I would say, like, kind of like a big moment for Impact Wrestling. Bound for Glory is one of my favorite pay-per-views to say. But we got to get to the real thing. You are about to be a Hall of Famer, Traci. Like, I mean, like, I know it gives you chills. I know it makes you giddy and everything, but to find out after the match that you had with your husband in the ring, your son being there, the emotions, seeing the video package of you being the one to be inducted into Impact Wrestling's Hall of Fame. I mean, what was going through your head? What were your emotions like? Like, how are you feeling?
Well, you saw my emotion. I was a basket case. And that was legit. Like, I didn't know it was happening. I remember when there's like 1, 2, 3, I remember being on the ground. And I remember thinking, this is not a flattering position, I'm like, get up. So I remember getting up and then, celebrating with Frankie. And then all of a sudden Frankie grabs the microphone. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, and then I'm like, what's happening? And then I'm like, why is it was my butt. I think the first thing you saw. And I'm like, why is my ass on the screen? What's happening? And then Rebel's in the ring, my son. And I'm like, and then they said it and it was just, I'm going to cry again. I'm an emotional mess. It's just, I don't know how this is my life. Like, who gets this ending? Who gets to come back after 12 years, wrestle against two incredible, talented people like Lish and Eddie, against my husband, who's one of the greatest in the business, and then have my son in the ring, and then I get announced for the Hall of Fame. It's just, I was a retired school mom, PTA, member, baseball coach, and that was my life. And now all of a sudden I'm like, oh, okay. Things have changed a little bit. I never thought in my wildest dreams, though. I mean, I love this business. I got in it to be a wrestler, and I never thought past that. Like, I never thought, especially, again, when I was a stay-at-home mom for almost 11 years, I never thought that. But there'll be a lot of tears. Bring your Kleenex. I'm a hot mess. I can't even say my speech without crying, like just by myself. A funny story. I was telling Frankie a little bit. I don't want to tell him too much, but I needed a little bit of advice and I couldn't get it out without crying. So I texted it to him because I could not stop crying.
I know you talk about wildest dreams. I mean, there's been so much going on. We're getting ready for Bound for Glory, as Santana said. Mickie James versus Trinity. Such an iconic match. Is there any knockout, past or present, that you never got in the ring with that you would have loved to go toe to toe with? You can give me a couple.
Trinity for sure. She was someone I watched when she was coming up. And I was like, I remember I said this to Frank, I'm like, she just gets it. She understands that she looks like $1,000,000. She's talented, but she gets it. And so the fact that I got to do something with her was kind of like a little bit of a like fan moment for me too. You know who I never been in the ring with? Lisa Marie, Victoria Terra. She is a huge part of my career for other reasons, but I had never got to be in the ring with her. And it's funny because I had a tryout way back in the day, 2002, like when she was doing the Crazy Woman, and she was standing beside me. She didn't know me at all. I was an indie worker, and she's just like, they think we look like sisters. So maybe we could be like sisters on TV and be crazy. And so she was pulling for me to get hired. And back then that was unheard of because there wasn't a lot of women's spots. And so that's why Lisa Marie will always have that's who she is though. But that's why she'll always have a special place in my heart. But I never got to get in the ring with her. Yeah. So Trish, because I trained with Trish. I started training with Trish and then she went off. So I would have liked to, both in our prime, to have a match. But I mean, I got to work Gail Kim, ODB, like all these awesome Kong. I got the beautiful people. I got to work Luna. I got to wrestle in front of Sherry Martel, which was my absolute idol. Like I got to Ricky Steamboat actually agent one of my matches. So I lived a storybook career. Like I just lived this incredible career that got to do some really cool shit.
That's amazing. So, like, of course, we know that another Hall of Famer, Gail Kim, will be the one to induct you into the Hall of Fame. I mean, talk about, like, you know, of course, you know, you've had your fuse or whatever with Gail Kim, and like also that real life friendship too, and her being the first one to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I mean, talk about that moment there, you know, having someone like a Gail Kim still being a part of the Knockouts division, her coming back to the ring too, for the first time in such a long time. Just all around that moment there, and how special that is to have her be the one to induct you.
Oh, she's my best friend. She's my sister. And I mean, she's Auntie Gail to Rebel. We FaceTime almost every day. Literally, it's like, hi, Auntie Gail, you know. There was no one else. She had to do it. And I mean, because I was like, does Frankie do it? But I've known Gail for so long. And Gail was my first marriage in wrestling. Like her and I trained together. We traveled together. You know, she went her own way. I went to Impact, and then we were back together again. We were roommates, maid of honors. Like we were everything in each other's lives. So I'm just a little worried she might be mean to me. I'm like, you have to be nice to me. You can't be mean to me. But she's that. And the fact that those knockouts are so lucky to have her, because even as Gail is a friend, no one will fight for you harder, or even when you don't want to fight for yourself, she's the one fighting for you, or no one will support you, or she doesn't baby you. That's for sure. But she's your biggest cheerleader. And that also goes over to her relationship with a knockout. So those knockouts are so lucky to have her, like just incredibly lucky. And to see her back in the ring, like seriously, you didn't miss a beat. She's annoying. Like you can't like, you know, stumble or something. No, you're just this high flying cruiserweight that's flipping and flopping everywhere and just, you know, picking up where she left off. So, but she's always been, I was always her base. She flew around me. I made her do that stuff and I just caught her.
That is absolutely beautiful. Well, we want to thank you for everything you've done for not only women's wrestling, but wrestling as a whole. We want to congratulate you for being inducted into the Hall of Fame, and we cannot wait to watch. Now, before we get out of here, let everyone know where they can find you on all the social medias.
Oh, God. Okay, well, I just joined Instagram. It's a big thing. Okay. I keep calling it Instacart, too. So Instagram, I am OG Knockout Traci Brooks.
Nice.
And I'm the Traci Brooks on Twitter, I think.
Nice.
But I just joined this week, so I'm posting lots of old pictures that kind of helped me through my career and people like that. So,
well, y'all will definitely have to check that out. We thank you for tuning in to Battleground Podcast and a special episode of the Shaker's Den. Of course, you can follow us all on social media as well. Make sure you check us out on Twitter and all the good social media platforms. Of course, thank you again. You have been tuned in, and we will see you guys next time.
Thank you, guys.